Hello, I'm Pastor Bill Schultz with Hungry Hearts Ministries in Jackson, Tennessee. I want to thank you for watching today's video. We're going to talk about the Sabbath. God gave the Sabbath to humankind in the Garden of Eden so many years ago. And there has always been a remnant on this planet keeping God's Sabbath. There's always been a Sabbath keeping church, believers in Jesus Christ, Yeshua Messiah, who keep God's Sabbath. Now, we have some materials available. My first book that I ever wrote was this one right here, Holy Time with God. Oh, there we go. Holy Time with God. And it's available at our ministry. It's a small charge. I think it's like $7 or $8. But anyway, this is it's a great little book. It's my first one I ever wrote. And it's like a lot of my books, it's short to the point, easy to read, and it will tell you everything you need to know. Now, we also, if you don't want to spend any money, we have a little booklet right here, God's Holy Sabbath, that is a free PDF download. And these are available at hungryheartsministry.com. So if you go to hungryheartsministry.com, you can download the booklet for free, or you can purchase the little Sabbath booklet. And it's not a lot of money. It's a real easy buy. That includes sales tax and shipping, by the way. So whatever the price you see on there, that is the price. And we'll get it right out to you. We also produce Pursuit Newsletter, which is a quarterly publication free. All we need is your mailing address, and we'll send it right out to you. And this contains a lot of really important articles and advertisements on what we're doing in the ministry, whatever. We're never going to ask you for any money, and all of this stuff is available free, with the exception of the books. Now, in Genesis chapter 2 is the account of God creating the Sabbath. God is finished the creation week, and he's done a lot of work creating, or should we say renewing the surface of the earth, putting life on it, and bringing it back from the satanic rebellion. Now, in Genesis 2 and verse 1, it says, "Thus the heavens and the earth were completed in their vast array. And by the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work." Now, he hadn't stopped creating. He's creating now by resting. And that's a big distinction to make. He's creating by resting. He's resting on the Sabbath, and he's creating something. And in order to access that, you have to rest to get it. And God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating. Now, God wasn't tired, but he's doing something by resting. He's made this day holy. So the only way for you to access the holiness in the Sabbath day is to rest on it. And that's important to do. Um, a little further, if you want to go into the 10 Commandments, they're in Exodus 20. And in Exodus 20, God gives the 10 Commandments. And, I'm always amused when people say it's the law of Moses, because it says here in verse 1, God spoke all these words. So this isn't Moses' law. This is God's law that he gave to Moses for all humanity. And these are, as the late Ted Koppel said, these are not the 10 suggestions. They're the 10 Commandments. These apply to all humanity, everywhere, all the time, never. And so, a lot of Christians say, well, we keep some of them. Well, close only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades. Close doesn't count. You got to keep them or you don't. Now, the fourth commandment here, starting in verse 8, says, "Remember the Sabbath day by keeping it holy." Well, why are you going to remember it? See, he's not giving it to you here. He gave it to you in Genesis chapter 2. He renewed it in Exodus 16. And now he's telling you, I've given you this commandment a couple of times. Now remember it this time. And we got to do that. And if you look at the commandment, it's real simple. Thou shalt do no labor on the seventh day. But if you notice it right above it, it says 6 days you shall labor. So he's telling you to work 6 days and take the seventh day off. Well, Pastor Bill, we don't know what day that is. Well, sure we do. Sure we do. And I know a lot of folks want to argue about that in modern times, and they've come up with all kind of weird things like a lunar Sabbath and all of these things to get around a very simple fact. God gave a 7-day week in creation. It's recurring. Months aren't 7 days, any of them. And he tells you in Genesis chapter 1 that he gave you the sun, the moon, and the stars for the signs of the times. And so the moon is given for months. That's why they're called months. It's an old English word that has to do with the moons. And a month is 29 and a quarter days, any way you want to count that. So that's never an even 4 7-day weeks, ever. And it wasn't intended to be. The weekly cycle was never intended to be in line with the monthly cycle, which was never intended to be in line with the solar cycle. God made all these cycles so that you have to stop and pay attention. But the Sabbath is the easiest, every seventh day. Now, how can we know it's the day? Like I told you before, he gave it, he renewed it with Israel in Exodus chapter 16 when he gave the manna. So he gave them manna for 6 days, and then every seventh day there's no manna. And then 6 days there's manna, and the seventh day there's no manna. And he repeated this for 40 years because he knows we're hard-headed, and we have a hard time paying attention, especially when numbers are involved. So he did it for 40 years. I think we kind of have it down now. Now in Exodus 31, he has a section here on the Sabbath. This is right before the Israelites sin with the golden calf. But in Exodus 31, in verse 12, it says, Then the Lord said to Moses, Say to the Israelites, you must observe my Sabbaths. Again, it's not a suggestion. It's a commandment. He's telling them, you have to keep my Sabbath. It's not play, and he's going to emphasize how not play it is. This will be a sign between me and you for the generations to come. That's a ha'olam. That means forever, in perpetuity. It's never going to end. Whatever it looks like on the other side of the kingdom of God, it's still going to be the Sabbath. So that you may know that I'm the Lord that makes you holy. It's the Lord making you holy. Well, if he is, then you got to keep the Sabbath. So he repeats it, observe the Sabbath because it's holy. And anyone who desecrates it must be put to death. And whoever does any work on that day must be cut off from among his people. Well, here we're standing in the brink of the great tribulation. Do you want to keep the Sabbath? Well, I think it'd be a good idea, because he says here that anyone who works on the Sabbath is going to be cut off. It's going to be put to death. Well, I don't want to be cut off. Not any time, but I sure don't want to be cut off right here before the great tribulation. For 6 days work is to be done, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, holy to the Lord. Whoever does any work on the Sabbath must be put to death. Oh, Pastor Bill, that's that Old Testament. Really? Is that the Old Testament? See, I don't know about you, but in my Bible, there's only one Testament. It starts in Genesis and it ends in Revelation. The map's in the back. Let's see what Jesus has to say. We're followers of Jesus, Yeshua Messiah. So Matthew 12 opens up with a controversy about the Sabbath. And the controversy wasn't over whether or not we keep the Sabbath. The controversy was over the Pharisees' nickel and dime rules about keeping the Sabbath. So it says it in Matthew 12, at that time Jesus went through the grain fields and on the Sabbath, and his disciples were hungry, began to pick some heads of grain. Now I want to point out that in ancient Israel, it was lawful for you to grab some handfuls of food when you're walking past a field. That's entirely lawful. Matter of fact, the law tells you to let the hungry eat on the edges of the field, not harvest and take home. If you're hungry, you can come get something to eat. And when the Pharisees saw this, they said, your disciples are doing what's unlawful on the Sabbath. Well, that's not unlawful on the Sabbath. God nowhere said you couldn't get some handfuls to eat when you're walking past a grain field and you're hungry. He said, don't harvest the wheat. Don't hoe the rows. Don't fertilize. Don't water. I mean, take the day off. Yeshua said, haven't you read what David did when he and his companions were hungry? He entered the house of God, and he and his companions ate the consecrated bread, which was not lawful for them to do. Or haven't you read in the law that on the Sabbath the priests in the temple desecrate the day and they're innocent? Matter of fact, Paul in Romans calls this a special kind of worship, latriuo. I tell you that one greater than the temple is here. If you'd known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent, For the Son of Man is Lord of the Sabbath. He didn't say the Sabbath is done away. He didn't say you can go to work on it. He said he's Lord of the Sabbath. My Savior is Lord of the Sabbath. The Sabbath is important to him. Well, why is that? Because that's the time he's going to come and be with us. He's going to come and spend time with us on Sabbath. That's the whole point of the Sabbath. He stops what he's doing, and we stop what we're doing, and we can be together with him and our families. Now, Colossians, great little book, the letter to the Colossians. In Colossians, a lot of people twist this verse to make it say what it doesn't say. In Colossians 2 and verse 16, it says, "Therefore do not let anyone judge you by what you eat or drink." The Greek word there is brosis, and it has to do with following the Jewish dietary laws, or with regard to a religious festival, and that the Greek clearly points back to the holy days, a new moon celebration, or a Sabbath. He didn't say, "Let no man judge you for not keeping them." He said, "Let no man judge you for keeping them." And every time we read that verse, they put a not in there. Don't judge me for keeping the Sabbath. Yeshua's going to judge you for not keeping the Sabbath, or the holy days, or the new moons, or the dietary laws. These are important to him. These are very important to him. And he's not going to stop. Now, again, I want to offer you Holy Time with God. It's a great little book. It's the first one I ever did. And it's going to cover a lot of things. And I try to do it quickly. I know you don't have a lot of time to read. See if you can get that title there, Holy Time with God. This is only available through Hungry Hearts Ministries. You can't get it anywhere else. And that's Hungry Hearts Ministry with a Y. And then these are our two YouTube channels, Hungry Hearts Ministries, and then at Hungry Hearts Ministries. We had a technical problem with Microsoft, and so we ended up having to start a new channel. Couldn't get back in the old one. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff on here. There's a lot of free materials, including the little booklet, God's Holy Sabbath, that is available for free. I'll mail you a hard copy if you want. Happy to do it. It's also available as a free download. And thank you so much for watching. God bless you. Shalom, shalom. We'll see you next time.